Second. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rob Marciano, in today for Randy K. Lots going on overnight while you slept, so let's get right to it. The man who ruled Egypt with an iron fist for 30 years is now at a maximum security prison where he will spend the rest of his life. Just a short time ago, an Egyptian court found former President Hosni Mubarak guilty of ordering troops to shoot and kill hundreds of anti-government protesters last year. The ailing Mubarak was taken by ambulance to the Cairo Police Academy, where the verdict was life sentence was handed down. He was wheeled in on a gurney under heavy guard, sunglasses hiding his eyes. His lawyer says he's appealing. He could have gotten the death sentence, though. Mubarak's former interior minister has also been found guilty and sentenced to life behind bars. But the former president's 2 sons and 6 of his former military men were acquitted. That sparked an uproar inside and outside the courtroom. Furious protesters called the verdict illegitimate and chanted, "The people want to topple the regime." Some fought with the former president's supporters. Outside the building, some demonstrators remained calm, but other pro-Mubarak supporters threw stones at police. Security is very tight. 5,000 police have been deployed. Huge crowds had gathered outside the court for what many called Egypt's trial of the century. Mubarak supporters waved his picture in the air and chanted "innocent," but others carried pictures of dead loved ones and chanted "execution is the only solution." Our senior international correspondent, Ben Wiedemann, joins me now on the phone just outside the Cairo Police Academy. Ben, I can just imagine that emotions are high. Describe the scene for us.
It was an incredible scene, Rob, when the news was first announced that Hosni Mubarak had been sentenced to life in prison for ordering the killing of the protesters. The crowd went wild. People were shouting, clapping, singing, firing fireworks into the air. But when the news came out that all those senior advisors and aides to the interior minister had been acquitted, that Hosni Mubarak's 2 sons, Gamal and Ala, had been found innocent, the mood changed very rapidly. People very angry. They started to clash with the security forces who are here, as you said, in the thousands. And it was just incredible to see the changing mood of the people here when they realized that it wasn't quite so cut and dry as all that. And I spoke to some of the anti-Mubarak people outside the court who said that they believe that this verdict is a prelude to, in fact, another sentence, or rather an appeal that will lead to, they think, the Hosni Mubarak being found innocent. So the mood changed very quickly, and now it's quite sour. No?
Yeah, it was an unusual scene watching the verdict come down, Ben. I mean, the judge seemed to praise the revolution. He described the 30-year regime as being dark times. Was that unusual or all symbolic?
Oh, certainly it does represent a dramatic break from the past when sort of every organ of the Egyptian government seemed geared to build up the president. But it's true, the verdict is a very mixed verdict, and despite the historic nature of it, you have to realize that it's not just Egypt that's watching, it's the entire Arab world that's been racked by this year and a half of upheaval, that's been watching this trial very, very closely. And they're looking at the other leaders who are now embattled. For instance, Bashar al-Assad of Syria. Many people there would like to see him suffer the same fate as Hosni Mubarak or worse. But as is often the case in Egypt, nothing is crystal clear. People thought that there was a clear verdict, but as it turns out, not so clear. There could be an appeal, so this drama is far from over.
And Ben, there was certainly drama in the courtroom. All those men standing up and seemingly unhappy with the verdict itself. From what you've seen, though, I mean, there's got to be some Mubarak supporters out there. About what percentage on either side of that have you seen, and have they been vocal?
I would say that for every pro-Mubarak person, there's probably 4 anti-Mubarak here. They're definitely outnumbered. Now, we spoke to them as well before the verdict, and many of them said that this trial is unfair, that Hosni Mubarak served the country for 30 years as president, before that as vice president, before that as head of the Air Force, and that he simply does not deserve to be treated like that. Several of the Mubarak supporters I spoke to said that they believe that the entire Egyptian revolution and the revolutions that have exploded across the Arab world were simply part of a plot. Rob?
Big day in Cairo, Egypt, and our Ben Wiedemann is there. We'll be checking back with you. Thanks very much, Ben. Well, the verdict comes at a turbulent time for Egypt. The country's presidential runoff happens later this month on June 16th and 17th. I'm joined now by Egyptian journalist Mona El-Tawahi in New York. Mona, on a grander sense, the big picture, what does this verdict mean for Egypt?
Well, the verdict overall, Rob, is seen by many people in Egypt as the latest blow of injustice, basically, from the military junta that has been ruling Egypt since the revolution forced Mubarak to step down on February the 11th. A lot of people feel that there was lots of forgery during the election, that we have the runoff coming up on the 16th and the 17th, as you said, and they're very dissatisfied with the two contenders. One is considered a part of the old regime, Ahmed Shafiq, and one is from the Muslim Brotherhood, Mohammed Morsi. And people are putting this verdict in the middle of this whole big bag and saying this is just a big charade by the military junta, and that despite the life sentence that Mubarak got, the fact that his sons were acquitted and all of those interior ministry officials were acquitted, and on top of that, not a single police officer over the past 15 months has been found guilty of killing the almost 1,000 people who've died during the revolution. All of that has caused a tremendous amount of anger that you saw explode in the courtroom. And the people weren't just chanting that people demand the fall of the regime. They're also very importantly chanting that people demand the cleansing of the judiciary, because this is all considered part of a very, very corrupt regime that remains very much in place.
So where do we go here? I mean, at the very beginning there, you made the point that the two presidential runoff candidates are pretty much from the old regime. So what are citizens of Egypt saying about that? They must be furious and frustrated.
Well, they are. One is from the old regime. He was Mubarak's prime minister, last prime minister, and one is from the Muslim Brotherhood, who's one of the longest opposition parties in the country. And one of them only got 25% and one got 24%. So that just shows you how few votes each of them got. And now the country has to choose between the two, which is why, I stress that people feel a lot of anger in Egypt, and they feel really cornered by a military junta that they see determined to hold on to the reins of power. I've always said that we replaced one Hosni Mubarak with 19 Hosni Mubaraks, and they're the generals who formed the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces. And people see them as very much manipulating everything on the scene in Egypt, and that's what's driving the anger. I'm hearing from some social media reports that police are trying to close the roads leading into Tahrir Square. I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but this is by way of showing you that people want to go on the street and demonstrate against what they consider a great injustice.
Mona El-Tawahi, thanks for that great insight. We'll check back with you. Back to the States now. George Zimmerman